Jim and the guys had a long conversation about hurricanes, hurricane prep, proactively storing your valuable items before a big storm is on the radar, insurance troubles after a big storm, and a slew of other hurricane-related topics. Instead of presenting one long conversation, we've broken it up into 3 shorter segments. If you'd like to see the conversation in its entirety, the link will be posted in the description below, as will links to the other shorter segments. Thanks for joining us.
Before we get into things, I figured I'd drop some hurricane data and facts from last year. We had 2 major storms, Hurricanes Helene and Milton, come through. Those 2 storms alone caused, we'll call it, significant damage. Helene estimated to cost $78.7 billion in damages, and Milton caused $34 billion in damages. Some kind of damages you're just not going to be able to avoid, but there are ways that you can mitigate the risk. And part of mitigating the risk is making smart moves long before storms ever get here. Derek can speak very deeply about the hassles with insurance if you have damages. 247,000 insurance claims were filed in Florida alone for Hurricane Milton, with a combined estimated loss of $2.8 billion. And the economic impact of the damage that these storms did was astronomical. It was estimated across the U.S. to be approximately $500 billion in economic impact from these storms. Again, some of these things we can't avoid, but there are ways that we can be a little more prepared. We can protect ourselves, our family, our things. So I figured we'd talk about them today.
There's a lot of things to discuss because we know the phrase "show me the money," and all of what you just mentioned, John. There's a money trail to this, and as you're saying, Derek, there's a way to prevent or change that money trail. The damages in these hurricanes over the past 10 or 15 years, particularly in Florida, because there's more and more people in Florida, fewer and fewer, because some people have just said, I don't want to do the hurricanes anymore. But we still have a ever increasing population in Florida, so more and more people are impacted. And I think it is important, particularly people that aren't familiar with hurricanes and just how they can affect your possessions. Just think of Hurricane Ian in 2022. There was a storm surge in one of the largest storm surges since the Great Galveston one in Hurricane Andrew in 1992. But we saw in Fort Myers a 15-foot storm surge. So you're at sea level, and anything below 15 feet was destroyed. So a lot of cars were gone, a lot of power, energy, because you don't have your energy out of water's harm. And so all the electrical boxes and stuff, we have a friend, she was 2 blocks from the beach in Naples, and she had a sunken living room, and that was a bathtub. But all of her garage was 4 or 5 feet under, and so all the electrical panels. And by the time you start pulling the layers back, they had to tear the house down, of course. But whatever's in your home, whether it be a car in the garage or your keepsakes in boxes, because in Florida there's no basements, so which is good.
Yeah,
because it'd really be bad with a hurricane. But since you don't have a basement, a lot of people put stuff in storage in closets, and so there's steps you have to think about. Where do I live? How close am I to the water? Is my home secure from water coming in? And it doesn't have to be a flood. It can just be rain coming in through the soffit and getting down into your sheetrock, and then mold collecting in your house, and now anything on your wall is now got mold on it.
And that's what happened to me. Is I had one, basically 3 rooms in my house where the soffit blew off. I'm pretty confident a tornado as part of Hurricane Ian tore through our neighborhood, took out massive trees, and also ripped all the soffit off, blew a bunch of water into my bathroom and my kids' rooms. They lost a lot of sentimental things to them from their youth, and we had to throw it out.
I think we really should talk about the insurance thing, and I can talk for days on that, but the whole length of time that it took for you to process and get some type of satisfaction was almost 2 years, wasn't it?
It was 2 years. So
yeah.
The So I had $126,000 of estimated damage on my house. The insurance company offered me $12,000. So I had to get a public adjuster. Public adjuster went through, and even the public adjuster, I had to strong arm them into going to the campuses at the hotels. So all the insurance companies would come there, and I lived at the time in Port Charlotte. They would take over a hotel in Punta Gorda, and I would strong arm my public adjuster to come over from Miami. He told me he had 133 clients, so I was just one of many. And he came over, and he finally, after about a year and 8 months, was able to get it settled. And then I was able to get all the work done. And it took me until February of last year to get the house complete, to back to where it was before.
Sure.
And we used every penny of the 126,000. And then when I sold the house, there was still things that I still had to pay out of pocket, another $8,000 to just get it to a point where I could put it on the market, sell it, and it would pass inspection. So it was actually over what I ended up getting in terms of damages.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
You know, the power of a hurricane to come ripping through an area can be, I'm a big weather person. I love it. I get excited. I will say that as I get older, I am less excited when a big storm is on the way. But so these huge weather patterns come through, and they can be traumatic events for people unlike me who don't, you know, who are made scared and nervous by this sort of thing. So you have the storm itself, which can be a really awful thing to go through. And if you are in an area where you lose power, all of us have lost power. The first big storm here, we were without power at my house for 2 weeks. My entire neighborhood was out. That's another traumatic event. You're driving around through town and you see the area you live, just, it varies area to area, of course, but devastation everywhere. Huge damage to homes, the natural environment torn to shreds. That's traumatic. And then when you start getting back to your life, then you get to deal with the often very painful experience like Derek had of dealing with insurance, and the fact that it can last not for weeks or months, but years. So these horrible weather events can really turn into the gift that keeps on giving.
It's still giving. You know, just to give you an idea, my insurance, my homeowner's insurance, by the end of when I sold it, $1,000 a month because I did a claim.
Yep.
$1,000 a month was added to my mortgage payment because I how dare I do a claim and then challenge them and not
That's
take.
so they can get their money back in 10 years.
Correct.
Yeah.
And but then it keeps going for me because I moved up here. I'm deciding where I want to buy. And so I'm renting for a year. I had to take renter's insurance. Well, guess what? My renter's insurance is higher because my claim is still on my record.
Yeah.
My home
In Florida.
in Florida, even though I'm living in New Hampshire now.
Geez.
And on top of that, my auto insurance, that claim shows up on the auto insurance. So Progressive is like, oh, well, you did a claim. So I pay more money for my car insurance as well because of that claim. And so all these insurance companies are all in this together, and they all are looking for reasons. So if you go and you do a claim, again, you're going to get ridiculed. You are going to be put on a list, and you are going to pay a premium for all insurance. So going back to, it behooves you to protect your things, put your things into storage. But there is parts of this with a hurricane that you can't control other than you go start talking to your representatives, grassroots to get insurance. You know, the insurance industry just needs to be overturned, gutted. It's corrupt.
Just to put it that really put an exclamation mark on what you just said, Derek. I did a little Google work a couple of days ago on the claims that went in on Ian. Ian was the fourth strongest wind storm that we had, and that they clocked 150 miles an hour with Ian. Storm surge. So it's one of the more costly storms because of the storm surge. On the NOAA list of top 10 for Florida, there were thousands and thousands of claims, and less than half of them got paid out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I believe the number that I came up with was a small number, like 5 billion actually got paid out on, 50 billion in claims. They paid out like 10% on it. Meanwhile, across the board, you have close to 8,500 homeowners and condo owners in Florida whose average rate of insurance went up 18%. If you take an 18% increase across that number of people with an average of almost $7,000 a year, now those that put the claims in went up a lot more. Mine, because I put a claim in way back for Irma, and they had to put 20,000 into putting a new roof on, went up by $7,000 a year. So they're going to get their money back a lot faster. You know, they do it a little slower the bigger the claim, but a $20,000 claim, the insurance company has it set up, they're going to make it back in 3 years. Derek, they'll make it back in about 10 years because it was a much bigger claim, right? So collectively, the insurance industry is bringing in $37 billion more a year right now, only paying out less than 10 billion. So they've made a lot of money on insurance, no matter what they say. There is, and it's highly regulated. You don't have a choice because they drop you. I mean, my insurance dropped me. And then I got a notice from my mortgage company that it was going to go from 3,000. It was going to go up by another 6,000. So it more than doubled per year. So it's now at 9,000. And I don't have a choice as long as you have a mortgage.
Yep.
And so theoretically, they're going to make their money back in a little less than, a little more than 2 years on the $20,000 claim. But it doesn't come down. It just stays up. What goes up never comes back down.
Yeah.
So in my 46 years of owning property, multiple warehouses, multiple different homes all over, I've probably paid in over $1 million in insurance premiums for contents and for damages. I put one claim in 46 years, and they more than doubled my insurance on my home because of it. So people need to be aware. Don't rely on insurance because they are not going to take care of you. I'm sorry if you work for an insurance company. If you're a Geico hearing this, shame on you. Really, in case you wanted to know, these are the facts. You can Google it yourself. Anyone can. And it's astounding. I encourage people to go in and to know what the reality is. They're not going to pay. Everyone's insurance went up 18%. So those that didn't put a claim in still were paying for Derek and I's claim, and we're paying even more for that claim. And that's what happens in the insurance industry. When I looked at the Ian thing, this is really telling. It was estimated that between 10 and $20 billion was spent on litigation on claims related to Ian. In other words, almost 3 times as much as was paid in litigation to not pay out anymore.
To not pay people.
To
it's
not pay people.
Insanity.
And
look,
that's they paid almost $20 billion to stop it at around $5 billion in payoffs on over $50 billion in claims.
Yeah, and we know that people will try and commit fraud, and they will try and submit, fake claims and all that. So yes, there is a reason that insurance companies need to fight that sort of thing. But so many innocent people who have legitimate claims and suffered legitimate losses wound up getting rolled into that group of people and don't get what the insurance companies were designed to protect them with.
Yeah, we had this friend that lost everything, and the insurance company just refused to reinsure ever again her property because it was totaled. So here's somebody that's paid for 37 years for a house near the beach, and then now she can't even insure it. So unless she's, self-insured, which is what she'd have to be, she couldn't even get premiums, let alone afford them.
Well, this is all good stuff. I appreciate the time. I think it's a great conversation, and hopefully one person gets something out of this. We've done a good thing. Good stuff, gentlemen. I can't wait to do the next one.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Jim. See you soon. Bye.